Tonight, a federal appeals court has delivered a major blow to the Trump administration's sweeping tariff plan, sending shockwaves through the corridors of power in Washington and beyond. The decision, announced late in the evening, has already become the top story on every major news outlet, with experts and commentators scrambling to interpret its far-reaching implications. The court has halted the proposed 60% tariff on all imported goods, a move that was set to fundamentally alter the landscape of global commerce. This sudden reversal has left importers, exporters, and customs officials in a state of confusion as they try to determine what comes next for the flow of goods across borders. This decision reverberates across the globe, impacting international trade, American businesses, and millions of consumers who were bracing for higher prices on everyday products. From electronics to groceries, the threat of rising costs had become a daily concern for families and business owners alike. Now, markets, allies, and rivals are scrambling to reassess strategies as a new chapter of uncertainty begins. World leaders are holding emergency meetings, and multinational corporations are re-evaluating supply chains, investments, and future plans in light of this unexpected legal development. The court's intervention raises urgent questions about presidential power and America's role in the global economy. Legal scholars are debating the limits of executive authority, while lawmakers on Capitol Hill are calling for hearings and investigations into the administration's trade policies. The administration's plan was unprecedented, a universal tariff meant to reshape trade and boost domestic manufacturing. Supporters called it bold, arguing it would protect American jobs and industries. Critics, however, warned of inflation, supply shortages, and the risk of sparking a global trade war that could hurt workers and consumers alike. Many feared retaliation from trading partners, a sharp economic downturn, and even a possible recession if the tariffs were implemented. The stakes could not be higher for businesses already struggling to recover from recent economic shocks. Now the legal system has pressed pause on this high-stakes experiment, leaving the future of the tariff plan and the broader economy in limbo. The courtroom drama is far from over, and both sides are preparing for a prolonged legal battle. The White House vows to appeal, promising a fight that could reach the Supreme Court. Administration officials insist the tariffs are necessary for national security and economic strength, while opponents argue the policy is reckless and unconstitutional. For businesses and families, the ruling brings temporary relief from looming price hikes, but uncertainty remains. Many are left wondering how long this reprieve will last, and what the next chapter will mean for their wallets and livelihoods. This is more than a legal battle. It's about the financial future of every American household. The outcome will shape not only the cost of living, but also the nation's economic direction for years to come. The story is just beginning. As the world watches, the next moves in this high-stakes saga will determine the fate of global trade, American prosperity, and the balance of power in the international arena. To truly grasp the significance of today's pivotal court decision, we need to journey back and understand how the tariff strategy first took shape. This isn't just a story about legal arguments, it's about a political movement that reshaped America's approach to global trade. The origins of the tariff plan are rooted in the heated atmosphere of the 2016 presidential campaign, where economic anxiety and frustration with lost manufacturing jobs were front and center. Donald Trump's promise of a sweeping 60% tariff was more than a policy. It was a rallying cry. He argued that decades of global trade deals had left American workers behind, and that only bold action could restore fairness. The administration insisted that unfair trade practices, especially those attributed to China, were costing the U.S. billions and undermining its industrial base. They claimed a dramatic response was not just justified, but necessary. The goal was clear: make foreign imports more expensive, breathe new life into American manufacturing, and discourage companies from moving jobs overseas. Supporters saw this as a way to reclaim lost industries and restore national pride. This approach marked a dramatic departure from decades of bipartisan consensus favoring free trade, which had been seen as a cornerstone of U.S. economic policy since the late 20th century. Critics, however, sounded the alarm. They warned that such sweeping tariffs could trigger inflation, raise prices for everyday goods, and provoke retaliation from trading partners. Yet for many voters in hard-hit regions, the promise of protection resonated deeply. Before this universal tariff, the administration had already imposed targeted tariffs on steel, aluminum, and a range of Chinese goods, laying the groundwork for the broader proposal. The results were mixed and hotly debated. Some industries saw a revival, while others struggled with higher costs and lost export markets. Ultimately, the universal tariff became the administration's boldest gamble, a sweeping attempt to realign global commerce and put America first in the world economy. Now, as the courts weigh the legality and impact of this strategy, the nation waits to see if this high-stakes bet will stand or fall. The administration bypassed Congress, invoking emergency powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA. They argued that trade deficits and reliance on foreign supply chains posed a national security threat. This legal maneuver was controversial, designed to sidestep legislative opposition and act unilaterally. Critics argued IEPA was never meant for broad, long-term economic policy. The law's original intent was to address specific, sudden threats, not to overhaul the economy. Opponents, including business groups, challenged the administration's authority, claiming Congress alone regulates foreign commerce. The central legal question: does a persistent trade deficit justify emergency powers? This set the stage for the courtroom showdown. In a dramatic turn of events, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit has unanimously decided to halt the administration's controversial tariff plan. This decision, delivered in a packed courtroom, sent shockwaves through both political and business communities across the nation. The court's ruling was clear. The administration had overstepped its authority by invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, to justify the tariffs. The judges found that there was no genuine national emergency that warranted such sweeping economic measures, setting a significant legal precedent. Chief Judge Patricia Millett, writing for the panel, emphasized, "A persistent economic condition cannot be retroactively declared an emergency to justify restructuring the nation's economy without clear congressional authorization." Her words underscored the importance of checks and balances in the American system of government. Importantly, the court did not weigh in on whether the tariffs themselves were good or bad policy. Instead, the focus was solely on whether the president had the unilateral authority to impose such tariffs without explicit approval from Congress. The case, officially titled U.S. Chamber of Commerce versus the President, brought together an unusual coalition. Major retailers, farmers, and leading technology companies all joined forces, united by concerns over the far-reaching impact of the proposed tariffs. Plaintiffs argued passionately that the tariffs would inflict irreparable harm on American businesses and consumers alike. They warned of higher costs for everyday goods, rising inflation, and the very real threat of job losses across multiple industries, from agriculture to manufacturing. In response, the court issued a nationwide injunction, effectively blocking the tariffs from taking effect while the legal battle continues. This injunction provides temporary relief to businesses and workers who feared immediate economic fallout. The White House, however, is not backing down. Officials have already announced plans to seek an emergency stay of the injunction and to appeal the decision to higher courts, signaling a prolonged legal showdown. Administration officials quickly condemned the court's ruling, calling it an example of judicial overreach. They vowed to continue fighting for the president's authority to act decisively on trade issues, framing the dispute as a matter of national sovereignty. As the legal battle intensifies, both sides are preparing for a potentially lengthy and precedent-setting fight. The outcome of this case could have lasting implications for the balance of power between the executive branch and Congress. Legal experts agree, the final decision could fundamentally redefine the scope of presidential power over trade policy, shaping how future administrations respond to economic challenges and global competition. For now, the tariff plan remains on hold, and uncertainty looms over the future of American trade policy. The stakes are enormous, not just for businesses and workers, but for the very principles of American governance. The court's decision sent political shockwaves through Washington. Democrats and some Republicans praised the ruling as a check on executive overreach. Senate Majority Leader Schumer called it a relief for families and small businesses. The White House framed the decision as activist judges, blocking the will of the people, vowing to appeal. Congressional Republicans are split, some relieved, others wary of breaking with the administration. The ruling intensifies the party's internal debate over trade. With midterms looming, both sides will use the decision to rally their bases. The political fight over trade is now front and center. Wall Street cheered the court's decision. The Dow surged and stocks of import-heavy companies soared. Investors and businesses breathed a sigh of relief, avoiding the inflation and supply chain chaos the tariffs threatened. For small businesses, the ruling is a lifeline, averting price hikes and layoffs. Yet uncertainty persists, as the administration's appeal keeps the threat of tariffs alive. Companies must now navigate a legal limbo, unsure whether to adjust supply chains or wait. This uncertainty could slow investment and hiring. Consumers, too, avoid immediate price shocks, but the future remains unclear. The economic impact of this saga is far from settled. The battle over tariffs will continue to shape wallets and business decisions. Stability remains elusive. Legal experts say the court's decision reaffirms the separation of powers. The D.C. Circuit made clear presidential authority in trade is not unlimited. Using IPA for sweeping, permanent policy changes goes beyond its intent. The ruling forces the debate back to Congress, where trade policy belongs. IEPA was designed to constrain, not expand, presidential power. The court's focus on statutory limits could shape future cases. The Supreme Court's eventual ruling may redefine the balance between Congress and the president. The outcome will set a precedent for generations. The stakes for American governance are immense. Beyond legal battles, the tariff fight has real consequences for American communities. For some, tariffs promised hope, reviving manufacturing and protecting jobs. For others, they threatened higher costs and economic pain. The court's decision deepens social divides over globalization and economic fairness. The debate over trade's role in American life is far from resolved. Finding common ground remains a major national challenge. Today's court ruling marks a pivotal moment in U.S. trade policy. The decision blocks a sweeping tariff plan, averting immediate economic turmoil, but fueling political and legal battles. Free trade advocates celebrate a check on executive power. The administration vows to appeal. The case highlights how trade policy shapes everyday life, from prices to jobs. The legal fight will continue, with the Supreme Court likely to weigh in. The outcome will set lasting precedents for presidential authority and America's global role. The story of American trade is being rewritten in real time. Its next chapter will affect us all. We'll keep you updated as it unfolds.